Welcome, everybody, the beautiful team of Abigail Before Beatrice. So excited to have you all here with us this morning. Let's start it off, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, say your name and what you did on the film, and we can start with Cassie.
Hello. Oh, sorry. I just looked directly into that was weird. Anyway, hi. I'm Cassie. I'm the writer and director and one of 3 producers. The other 2 are Benjamin Dunn and Mindy Van Kuren. Shout out.
I'm Olivia Taylor Dudley. I play Beatrice.
I'm Riley Dandy and I play Abigail.
My name is Shayn Herndon and I play Grayson.
It's a standoff between me and Molly.
Jordan goes first.
I knew you were going to do that. My name is Jordan Lane Shappell, and I had to remember who I was playing, so I just had to look back in the script. I play Will. I forgot the name.
Glad it made such a lasting impression on you. But
that happens to me all the time.
That happens to me a lot. Yeah. Also, I always want to say I'm Abigail when I'm like, Abigail?
Yes.
No, I'm Beatrice.
Yes. You give off Abigail vibes. I give off. I look like my name would be Beatrice.
And Tiny.
My name is Molly Jackson, and I play Georgina.
Yes, you do, my little.
Thank you guys so much. So, all right, we never have like this much of the cast here, so I'm really excited to ask a lot of actory questions, but I will start with Cassie. I, of course, want to find out what was sort of your inspiration for telling this particular story in this way?
I am going to try and be succinct, which is hard for me, as everyone in this chat knows. But I started writing this script for fun as scenes in our acting class. It started off because I wanted to work on something like kind of messed up and like personally very scary for me, and I wanted to work with Shayn and was like, how can I really challenge Shayn as an actor and write him some super messed up material? Are we allowed to curse? I should have asked before this started.
Fuck yes.
Fuck yeah. No. I wanted to like really fuck with Shayn, but like respectfully, I sent him the scene and he was like, this is really upsetting and really great. I was like, yay. And that was a really hard year for me. So I was working on another project that like totally imploded. And what made me feel better was just writing more upsetting scenes for fun. And towards the end of the year, I realized I had written 60 pages of a script and was like, well, it would be irresponsible for me to not finish the movie. And then I did. And then a year later, we made it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
What's that, guys? It really is, just want to fuck with your friend in acting class. By the way, all of us were in the same acting class.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. I was going to ask about the casting process, how that worked. You basically were just like, hi, friends. You're amazing to be in this movie.
Yes. I'm incredibly fortunate to be friends with like the most interesting and talented people in the world. And here we are. And now, and we did it. We made a movie. And I can't imagine going through that process without these specific particular people, because it was a really like personal script, even though I've never been in a cult, but like in writing it, I feel like as I'm a writer before I'm a director, and so sometimes when I'm writing, I'm like pouring all of my shit into a script to be like, oh, I can't wait for somebody else to deal with that. And they can bring it to life. And then when it was me directing it and you're looking suddenly at your shit on a monitor from like 2 feet away and it's happening in the next room, and like Jordan and I are huddling in a bathroom that's like 4 feet wide, and Shayn and Olivia are just acting their hearts out for like 12 hours. It's very overwhelming to be like, oh God, it's really happening and I'm doing it and it's right there. And if I didn't have this group of people that was so supportive, like I couldn't have done it, really. Yeah. So you guys made the movie possible.
Well, you killed it, and that's awesome. So you got to write the roles for the actors you knew would be playing them, essentially.
I was writing it thinking that somebody else would make the movie at first. I was still sort of learning how to like be like, no, I want to do this and I want to be the director. And so I was writing it, and then I was like, I'm writing it for myself. And then I was like, oh, I don't know, someone else will do it. But then when I was able, and like some people, yeah, I wrote specifically with Shayn in mind. But then with Riley and Olivia, it was essentially me looking at my, like, the friends. So I was like, maybe they would want to take a chance and make something with me. But then to like reach out, not only have them be like, yeah, I want to do it, but then to bring so many more ideas to it. Like Riley really fleshed out the character of Abigail. And so I added like the fact that she sings and she plays the guitar and she's much more of a person because Riley brought that. And then Olivia like read it and was like, nope, I 1000% understand this. And then she essentially just came in like a force of nature because we didn't have a rehearsal process. This was an ultra low budget. There was no time. And Olivia just came in and like ripped it from the earth, essentially. And I always wrote it I feel bad calling you little Molly. She's a full grown ass adult and much wiser than me. But
wiser than everyone, I think.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I call her my daughter's sister mother because she is all three for me. But yeah, couldn't have done it without this group.
Very cool. And that actually leads into my next question for all of you as the actors. I wanted to ask what your process was like, research process, prep for playing these characters who some of whom are really unlikable or just make choices that a lot of people would have a hard time wrapping their head around making.
I feel like when I read it, I didn't quite see it that way because I just really related to Beatrice, and I think a lot of women understand what it's like to be in a toxic relationship with their partner. I think that a lot of people can relate to that. So I immediately found a way in because I've been in several relationships that were toxic, and I've also dabbled a bit in being in what you might consider cultish groups in the past. So I just had a lot that I related to Beatrice right out the gate, I just kind of found who I was in her and ran with it. I don't know, like Cassie said, we did not have any rehearsal. We didn't have a lot of time. We didn't even really discuss a lot. I was just like, this is a woman who has fallen for somebody who is not good for her, and she doesn't have anybody else in her life. So she's going to pour her whole heart and soul and really just put her whole life on the line for this person. And it's a really good story to, cautionary tale of how easy that can happen and what's the fallout from that. And I don't know, I didn't have a hard time knowing who Beatrice is, whether or not that makes me healthy or not. I don't know. Like, I think everybody understands what that's like, especially women. So yeah, my approach to her was just, I knew who she was. And then it was just a matter of playing with everybody else who I was so lucky that I know everybody here. And I've worked with everybody in class and known some of them for years. And it was really just a delight. Like, it was so much fun, even though a lot of the scenes are really serious and painful to shoot and were really emotionally taxing. Doing it with people that you love and respect and adore at the end of the day made it so much fun. Like, I didn't have and none of this was like, I don't really take my work home with me, especially this kind of stuff, because it's just too exhausting. I've gotten really good in my craft at not taking it home. And so it was actually one of the best shoots I've ever been on, even though it was really wild stuff that we were doing on set. But anyways, I just love and adore Beatrice, and I love these characters that Cassie wrote. I don't remember what your question was.
No, that's great. I wanted to hear about that specifically. I think watching the film, Cassie, I'm glad that you didn't hand it off to someone else to direct, because I think, especially seeing the story told, written by a woman, directed by a woman, like no offense to present company, but I think in the hands of a male director, this could have not resonated so much. So I want to really give you all a huge kudos for that. But
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It felt like, hopefully it felt like a safe environment for everyone. Although it was kind of fun, in moments where I was like, I do want to focus on having more of a female gaze, and how do we look at these male characters, and it's not even necessarily, I feel like with a male gaze type of framing for how you hold the camera and stuff, it's sexualizing, but for our female gaze, for our male characters, it felt much more like yearning and looking at, and these are my guy friends who I'm like, hey, just so you know, if you're comfortable with it, we'd like you to not wear a shirt, and that would be great. And but I always left it up to them of hey, only if you're comfortable. And then they were just doing lots of crunches for us, all the time, and just I just feel like it was a very communication forward set, where we were always checking in with each other, and because I don't know, I just felt like if I'm worried that one of anybody on my set is feeling uncomfortable, then I'm not going to feel comfortable enough to move forward. So yeah, I'm very glad that I didn't try and give it away. I think that was more from a fear-based perspective when I was working on it, being yeah, this is a little too close. And then being yeah, but everybody dies. And so let's just live in this moment and do the thing that is scary. And I'm so glad that I did with this group.
Does anybody else want to talk about their, process with their character? Shayn, I definitely want to know how you approach being the villain, essentially, but humanizing him.
Yeah. I feel like I have such a strange relationship with prep that I haven't really figured it out or nailed down. This is what I do on every single movie. I tried doing a little bit of research. I watched Mother God, the Netflix cult movie. And then I realized that Cassie is actually just Mother God. So that wasn't helpful for me. So I stopped watching cult stuff. For this one, honestly, the role was really intimidating in the sense that I was very excited to do all the messy stuff. I was really excited to shoot in Arkansas and be on a farm, and all that stuff was so attractive. The cast, I was I trust them completely. All I have to do is hop in the room and just listen to what they're saying, and it's going to be fine. The thing that freaked me out about being a cult leader is this innate magnetism that they typically have, that people are just whoa, I'm drawn to you. And that was something that I was okay, how do I create this? How do we get this across? That freaks me out, because it has to be believable. So then I became really insecure over that and quickly realized, oh, there's the prep. I'm incredibly insecure. And that is what I think most cult leaders are. And that was my way in. And that's how I related, was I'm a super insecure person who would love to be special and unique. And I desperately want the people that I like to love me. So that was it. And I think that is at the core of what I feel we can all relate to that. And that is kind of the foundation of a lot of these cult leaders. And then you go in and in certain scenes, you have to mask the insecurity. You have to do whatever you have to do to cover that. But that was my way in, was just like actually being insecure over the role and then just using that.
Thanks. Yeah, that totally makes sense and definitely comes across. You nailed it. Not saying like, oh yeah, I could tell you're really insecure. You just did great work.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All of you, honestly. You brought up the location and shooting in Arkansas. How did that come to be? Why Arkansas? Was it always intended to be shot in Arkansas? How'd that work out?
I'm from Arkansas. I'm actually currently in Arkansas under a tornado watch at present. So, no, it's fine. It'll, whatever. If I go hang out in the bathtub, then I'll just bring you with me. But yeah, I grew up in Little Rock, and there is a film scene in Arkansas that is growing and growing, and there's more films being made here. I lived in LA for 13 years, and the year of the strikes and like that project blew up, and like I went broke essentially, and was like, well, gotta go. And so I had to move back to Arkansas. But right before I moved back, I found out that I'd won a $60,000 Panavision camera grant. And so instead of sort of returning home feeling like an abject failure, which is definitely where my head was at the time, I was like, oh, fuck, I'm not a failure. I'm going to make a movie. And I'm sort of psychotically persistent. And I made up my mind. It was like, yep, we're filming the movie in June because the SAG rates go up in July and we won't be able to afford to pay the actors, and that would put us into the next tier of low budget, and then we would go from like a $300,000 budget to like a required like $500,000. And so it's just like, cool, we've got to film in June, and I don't know anybody in this state, and we don't have any money, and I don't know anything or where to go. And then we pulled it all together. Yeah. But we filmed about 30 to 45 minutes away from Little Rock, where I grew up. And I still go out to the community pretty much every other weekend to eat pie and to have a ham sandwich at Charlotte's Eats and Sweets in Keogh that has a population of 207 people. And they have the Pecan Festival every year. Yeah.
I don't know how you can go back there. I'm like so traumatized by that bathroom that I could never, I love them, but I could never go eat a pie there again.
Riley, they saw, we invited them to like a private cast and crew screening that also included like people who gave us locations and stuff like that. And they weren't able to come, but I went and got pie the next day. And one of the owners walked out and he was like, how in the hell did y'all fit in that bathroom? Because people had like called him. Maybe somebody took photos, and he was like, I don't understand. Like, how there was a cameraman in there too? I'm like, yeah, that's correct. And the camera was about this far away from the actors. And you guys pulled it off because you're fucking geniuses.
That was one of my favorite scenes to film, though. That was a really fun. Sometimes when you have constraints like that, especially in indie filmmaking, you get some of the best shit. Yeah. And I feel like Riley and I kind of had no choice but to be like, make the scene work within that. And it kind of created something really beautiful. That was definitely like one of my favorite days on set.
Yeah, I think both of us felt quite sort of like trapped, and then we really had to just completely like give in to each other and the situation. And I think that for that scene in particular, that was really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Filming in Arkansas is also the hottest thing that you can do. It's yeah, the fact that like my AC blew out 2 days ago and I've just been in perpetual hell, and it's not half as hot as it was when we were filming a year ago. And by the way, yeah, it's the 1 year anniversary. We rolled cameras 1 year ago yesterday. So
wow.
Wow.
happy anniversary to all of us. But yeah, there was this one night in particular with Jordan and Olivia filming outside that was nothing short of agony. But they have
scarred
really
us.
stories.
It scarred us. There were more mosquitoes than I can't even. Jordan, you want to tell the kids at home how many mosquitoes were on our faces while we were doing dramatic?
Well, they ruin takes. Like I've never been on a set where bugs ruined a take, like the visual of bugs. And it wasn't even like, there's definitely moments where like a bug would land on Olivia's face and it would be like, well, she can't cry to me about I stole her home and there's a mosquito sucking up blood from her forehead. Like we can't
Literally.
Yeah, literally. But it wasn't even just that. It was like the space between the two of us, like the swarm was so thick that you could there was like shots where I remember texting Cassie was that we were getting edits being like, well, that's not the best take. And she was like, well, the best take's ruined by a swarm of 100 locusts. So like it's the plague. I don't know what to tell you. Or there was like shots where we were trying to do this oneer for a while before eventually I think we abandoned it, but where like a oneer would be ruined 3 minutes in, like Olivia's giving this incredible performance and then the oneer swings around to me and I'm just my back is covered in like 4 mosquitoes and they're like, we'll cut. And so we're like wasting, the limitations of indie filmmaking, I think are great. And then also you get kind of these random scenarios where you're like, man, this is really difficult. And everyone's like doing their best. And like Olivia's giving these incredible performances that are just ruined by bugs.
Yeah, it was definitely like, yeah, I love filming on set and I love the spirit of indie filmmaking. And then there's that moment at like, it's 2 a.m. and you're sweating. So we as just a group of folks smelled so interesting. And we probably lost like at least 6 months off of all of our lives from all the DEET that we were covered in. And at that moment you're like, wouldn't it be great if we had like studio money and we were on a sound stage? But it I don't know, it would have lost like the authenticity of being that sticky and like foul
during the like fire scenes. Shayn everybody had to sit around that fire and it was hot. It was the hottest night of the year, right, Shayn?
Yeah, no, it was awful. And then like, thankfully the mosquitoes were like the smoke was like eliminating the mosquitoes, but then like the smoke would be in all of our faces during like the monologue and all the takes. And so you're like choking on smoke, trying to still act. And that was absolutely miserable. But I think, and we didn't know this at the time, well, Riley did, but we were all dealing with smoke. But Riley was dealing with the worst of it all because she was sitting on a log. And Riley, I will let you describe what was happening to you during that scene. But that was probably the worst scene of.
Yeah, that was that night. So this was an overnight shoot. We wrapped at like 3 a.m. I also had to go back to LA at like 5 a.m. So we like were rushing through that night, and we're all wearing, skirts and dresses and stuff. And I had pants on underneath my dress because I didn't want to get bit by mosquitoes. And I'm watching Shayn and his battle against the elements. And then I'm like, wow, my ass is itchy. Like I've got an itchy ass cheek right now. And I was like, there's no way that these mosquitoes are making it through my pants. And then we found out that I was sitting on a log that was infested with termites. And so if any bug can make it through any material, it's a termite. Yeah. So the rest of the shoot, I had termite bites on my ass. And that's when you go, indie movie making is really great.
Yeah, it was also in the edit watching like just the amount of times we'd be in a take and we're like listening to Shayn doing his monologue, and then you just see the wind shift and the smoke, and suddenly everyone's like, just like we're struggling. And like also Molly has this moment where she's on the log next to the termite log, I think, and Shane's like, kneel, and Molly, it looks like she doesn't have to move because she's so like she's so small that she's already so close to the ground. It was like, oh, and but she's right next to the smoke and the fire, and I was genuinely concerned about her asphyxiating.
The smoke made it very easy to cry though. Like there was no, I didn't have to, it was like the automatic little like menthol sticks. So that was great. But no, I'll never forget we dropped Riley off at the airport after that night of filming, and that van just smelled like bug spray, smoke, and sweat. And everyone was sticky. Everyone was delusional. We had balloons in the van for some reason as well. And we were listening to Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan.
Yes, that was the overnight shoot, and I brought glow in the dark balloons to try to keep up the energy.
Morale. It worked, and we had a party to Chappell Roan on the way to dropping you off at the airport after that, with a smell I'll never forget in that van.
Oh God! And then there was also another night. I think, which night was it? Was it when they were filming the threesome, or I can't remember, but there was a night where like we're really intense and being so emotional with each other, and like, or well, the actors are, and like I cry during takes as a director, which is kind of embarrassing, but I'm very moved by good performances. And so the rest of the cast, we closed the set to have like an emotional, free space for our actors. And a part of me as director was like, gosh, I hope, they're not like bored or feeling underutilized. And those motherfuckers were in the cast van watching Happy Gilmore, like having the night of their life, and they're all like popping tops and like having a great time, where we're just suffering in the heat. We were having a fun time on set. Lots of Chappell Roan, lots of Sabrina Carpenter.
Yes.
And me crying, like behind every monitor, essentially.
I think the thing that I thought was really special, to like surmise it all, is like nobody was spared. Like nobody didn't have a really hard moment of filming. And I'm not saying that like in terms of the production and like what the production could do, but just there wasn't a character that was spared. Like it was, no matter what, somebody was like having to kind of strap it on and like get through, whether it was an element or a moment, to do something heroic for. Like there was wasp nests that Olivia had to act around while she was covered in blood. There was just so many harrowing acting moments paired with like, oh, what's happening? Okay, we're going to deal with that now too. And like nobody didn't have one, which was great.
I did want to ask about some of the challenges of indie filmmaking, but I think you've laid them all out very clearly for us. Thank you. Location primarily.
Yes.
Can I just mention one of the positives of indie filmmaking though as well, that I think that we were really, really lucky to do, is most of us lived in a house together while we were filming. And actually the people on this Zoom, we were all in the same house. And I think that that's something that created this like familial bond really, really early on, and that, these characters would have had anyway. And I think that you wouldn't have gotten that if we were all in our own hotel room. And I think that like stuff like that, I am really grateful for.
We said like it felt like summer camp a little bit, getting to come back, and we made forts and everything and played board games back at the house, and it was really nice. And for the premiere upcoming in Bentonville, we are all staying in an Airbnb again together to see if we can recreate that for a couple of nights, but it'll be fun.
I love that.
Yeah, There was a night I took a phone call and I came back in. I was like outside on the phone for like half an hour and I came back in and they were all hiding in a bathtub and playing hide and go seek. And I was like, it was one of the best nights that we've ever had.
Yes. I would like to point out that I was not in this Airbnb. I was in my apartment, like heavily drinking and working on the schedule, just being like, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to get through it. And then I would get photos from these 5 angels being like, we made a pillow fort. I'm like, I'm so glad you're having a good time. Yeah, no, I loved that, but that made me feel so happy to be like, wow, they really trust each other and they're really that open. And you can tell in the work, like it's 100% trust and love. And even when they're like, you know, being physically abusive or like emotionally abusive and these things that they're doing, to know that afterwards that they would like genuinely be hugging and dancing and making each other dinner was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. Work with your friends, guys. Please work with your friends.
The relationships definitely come through. And, you know, each sort of pairing has their own unique relationship that really comes across on screen. So it's cool to learn that there's history behind all of that. Mm-hmm. Anything else that was like truly unexpected that happened on set or magical?
There was one magic. I mean, a lot of it was magic, but there's this one day where we were in the bowling alley.
Yeah. I was going to say that too. Yeah.
The bowling alley. I'll just set the scene and then I'll let Jordan and Olivia take it. It's called Professor Bowl. It's it's a very old bowling alley in Little Rock. There were a lot of birthday parties there when I was growing up. And it has not been renovated since maybe the 80s. So it's kind of falling apart. And they were letting us just rent like 5 lanes for free, essentially. Or 3 lanes. And we were so grateful. And they're like, oh, yeah, we've got a couple other parties coming in the day that you're filming. But don't worry, we'll put them on either side of you. We're like, great. He neglected to tell us that he had rented out the entire bowling alley to summer camps. So it was hundreds of children. And they all arrived at once and there were waves of them. So like the 10 a.m. summer camp left at 11 and then the 11 a.m. summer camp came. The loudest, it was just the sound of children screaming for hours. So our gaffer, Matt, built sort of like a wall so that the children, because they're all just like, you know, like, what's going on? It's a movie. And so they're all staring, which, you know, it's already difficult enough. And I remember I was about to call action. We were like, okay, we're calm, we're centered, we can do this. And I hear this like, wee, ooh, wee, ooh. I'm like, what is that sound? And I look over and there's like a kid who's doing the inchworm, where your head goes down and then your ass goes up and you go, wee, ooh, wee. Uh-huh. And he was doing it across to like get in our field of vision. And that's kind of, my brain shut down and was like, okay, this is where we're at and we're on survival instincts now. But it was a scene between Jordan and Olivia and our younger actress, Anderson. Somebody take it away. Otherwise,
Jordan, why don't you tell everybody what you did?
Well, it's not about what I did, but what we did, Cassie had just, again, like we're doing like wide takes, we're doing all sorts of coverages. And because of the environment, it's difficult if we're having to move cameras around a lot and like rethink what the shots are. And so Cassie had written in this bowling scene, because Cassie writes everything kind of almost play like a lot of scenes. So there are these longer scenes. And so Cassie had written very specifically, like, my character throws a strike, Andy's character does something I can't remember, and then Olivia's. Yeah, but specifically, she's supposed to like knock down a certain number of pins or something like that. And then Olivia's character is supposed to like throw. I think you like hit.
Supposed to get one.
you're supposed to like miss the first one and then like nail one, right? It's like, so it's like a gutter ball and then nail one. And it's over the course of a like 6-page, 7-page scene. And so we set up just this wide shot, and like all day we're like, like I'm having to try to throw strikes so that we can just get coverage of the pins, and Olivia's having to try to, so we get like the whole crew is just like for a while, just rolling takes of trying to get all these balls down. We get some, but it's like, we're not nailing anything really. And then we push out to the wide, where there's a kid inchworming and people screaming, and the other 3 members on this Zoom were just having a good old time on their own in another lane bowling. And we get this one wide shot, and I wasn't paying attention at all, but we nailed exactly what Cassie had done perfectly. And like, you could feel the tension of the crew. So it's like, I throw the first ball, it's a strike, it's great. Andy throws the second ball, she gets something, and then it's Olivia, and Olivia gutters the first ball, and I'm not paying attention at all. And then like, you can feel like, I can like hear the DP, I can hear like the crew kind of like whispering a little bit. I'm like, what's happening? And then Olivia throws the next one. She nails like a corner pin perfectly, only nailing one. And we catch the entire thing in a wide, and like Cassie calls cut and the whole crew erupts. And I'm like, what happened?
Yeah,
and
it was one take. It was
one take, yeah.
It was our first take when we turned the camera around, because we had been facing one side of the bowling alley, and then we turned it around to see the pins, and on the first take they got everything that we needed. And I didn't yell cut, I yelled, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And then ran screaming, and then we called it, we were like, we're done for the day, and we ate pizza.
It also felt magical because like it was the end of the shoot, and we all were exhausted. It was like, it was just one of those things where you're like, you make it through a whole month of like really intense shooting. And so when something like that happens, you're like, okay, this is worth it.
Yeah. Just came together perfectly as written.
Kind of. Yeah.
Well, I think that's about our time. I want to thank you guys so much for spending time with us. Thank you for making this beautiful movie. Thank you for letting us make it available to our virtual audience. We love that you are on this mission with us to support accessibility with film festivals. We love the movie, and we hope we will see you all hanging out in the Discord, and congratulations on your upcoming premiere.
Thank you so much. And I will have to figure out how to use the Discord, but I will try.
We'll make it really easy, I promise. It's the only thing I use it for. I figured it out. You can do it.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you so much.